I had been in love with my boyfriend for 5 years. As the wedding date was approaching, I was told that my boyfriend had changed the bride. I made all kinds of excuses in my heart to excuse him, but then I heard him on the phone with a friend saying, Victoria only has me. If I don't marry her, she will be sold to a madman. It doesn't matter if Isabella knows. She is head over heels in love with me. Even if she can't accept it, she won't leave me. Feeling disheartened, I dialed my home phone. Hello, Mom. I agree to the arranged marriage. The wedding date remains the same. It's still that day. After hanging up the phone with my mother, I sat blankly on the sofa in a daze. 10 minutes ago, I was still happily trying on the wedding dress, imagining appearing in front of Julian later. He would let out an amazed scream and praise me as the most beautiful bride in the world. But the next second, I received a call from the wedding planning company. The staff on the other end anxiously confirmed with me. Miss Isabella, is it true that for the wedding you booked a month ago, the bride has been changed? The groom is Julian, and the bride is Victoria. At that moment, I felt as if a bomb had exploded in my head with a boom. I couldn't understand. Victoria was Julian's secretary. How could she become the protagonist of our wedding? I dragged the long train of the wedding dress to find Julian. Before seeing Julian, I thought of countless reasons to convince myself. Perhaps the wedding planning company made a mistake, or maybe the person who passed on the message got it wrong. But all my fantasies were shattered the moment I saw Julian. He was wearing a well-tailored suit and had his back to me while talking on the phone. Yes, the person I'm going to marry is Victoria. Victoria only has me. If I don't marry her, she will be sold to a madman. It doesn't matter if Isabella knows. She is head over heels in love with me. Even if she can't accept it, she won't leave me. Those words as sharp as a blade clearly reached my ears. In that instant, I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave. I couldn't imagine that the person I had loved for a full 9 years not only secretly changed the bride on the eve of our wedding but also, relying on my love for him, said words that hurt me without any scruples. Since my sincere heart couldn't be exchanged for his, there was no point in me clinging to Julian anymore. So I dialed my family's phone and agreed to the arranged marriage they had mentioned before. When Julian came over, I was still sitting on the sofa in the same position. As if nothing had happened, he took off his coat and draped it over my bare shoulders. Isabella, you look so beautiful today. If it were the me from before, upon hearing his such generous praise, I would have happily thrown myself into his arms. But now, looking at his affectionate eyes, I only felt hypocrisy and nausea. I pushed his coat away and stood up amidst his confusion. Julian, you know me. I hate being deceived the most. Julian smiled gently, as if he thought I was just throwing a little tantrum. He stroked my head and asked me in a tone like coaxing a child. What's wrong? Who made our Miss Isabella unhappy? Tell me, and your future husband will definitely teach him a good lesson. I never knew that Julian's acting skills could be so good that now his soothing actions and the tone he used to coax me made me feel that he loved me deeply. I opened my phone and found the prepared wedding invitation sent to me by the wedding planning company. I pointed at the bride's name on the invitation and looked at him directly with burning eyes. Julian, I know you changed the bride of our wedding to Victoria. The smile on Julian's face faded, and he grabbed my hand in a panic. Isabella, listen to my explanation. Before he could finish, a strange ringtone sounded. His expression froze, and he instinctively looked at me. Julian is a very lazy person. Whether it's a WeChat call or a phone ringtone, he uses the default ones from the system. Before, I pestered him to set a special ringtone for me, but he evaded it, saying it was troublesome. It's really rare to hear a lingering love song from his phone now. I guessed who was on the other end of the phone and sneered, answer it. Why don't you answer the phone? Julian hesitated, but finally took out his phone and answered the call under my gaze. As soon as he answered, we heard Victoria's soft voice with a crying tone on the other end. Julian, what should I do? I sprained my foot, and it hurts so much. Don't move. I'll come to you right away. Julian immediately became nervous. He grabbed the coat on the sofa and ran out, looking back at me as he ran. Isabella, wait for me. I'll be back soon. Just like that, he left me in a hurry. Looking at his bag, I remembered that in fact, there had been many times before when he left me alone for Victoria. He always left so blatantly each time and then bought a bouquet of roses and came back to find me who was waiting in the same place. But this time it was different. I calmly took off the high-end custom-made wedding dress on me. This time, I won't wait for him anymore. It was already past 8 o'clock in the evening when Julian got home, and I had just finished packing my luggage. As usual, he bought a bouquet of roses for me. Isabella, I know you're angry about what happened this afternoon. But Victoria is injured, and she doesn't have any relatives or friends here. She only has me. I glanced at him indifférently and didn't say anything. He hugged me warily. Victoria's family values sons over daughters. She told me that if she can't find a marriage partner, her family will marry her off to a madman in the village in exchange for the bride price. I'm doing this to help her. Julian spoke so sincerely. If I hadn't seen the cheap lipstick mark on the collar of his white shirt, I would have believed that he was such a good leader who cared about his employees and was willing to help others. I pushed Julian away and also pushed the bouquet of roses in front of me away. I said calmly, "Let's break up." He looked at me in disbelief, his eyes wide open. Break up? I nodded. Yes, Julian. I want to break up with you. I don't agree. He stood up angrily, with his hands on his hips, pacing back and forth. Soon, he saw the packed suitcase in my bedroom. You're leaving? No, you can't leave. Julian grabbed my shoulders and stared at me eagerly, his voice taking on a hint of a sob. Isabella, I don't want to break up. You were the one who chased me in the first place. You can't abandon me. I was stunned for a moment. Julian was right. At the freshman opening ceremony of the university, I fell in love with him at first sight because of his handsome appearance. Later, I tried my best to please him and chased him for 4 years. Finally, he agreed to be with me. He was not only my youth but also the resolute determination of my young self to charge forward. Seeing that my expression softened, Julian held me in his arms. Isabella, we've been together for so many years. Don't you know my heart yet? Feeling the warmth of his chest, I began to recall the kindness he had shown me before. Bringing me breakfast in the morning, bringing an umbrella when it rained, a cup of hot milk tea in winter, a cup of ginger syrup during my period. He used to be the so-called exemplary boyfriend praised by my friends. Just as I was overwhelmed by the memories and on the verge of crying, there was a knock on the door. The door wasn't closed tightly, and Victoria pushed the door open with a bag in her hand. She stood at the door, shrinking her shoulders. Julian left his clothes at my place, and I'm here to return them to him. My moist eyes turned cold. My gaze shifted from the bag in Victoria's hand to Julian. Julian was in a hurry to explain to me, Isabella, listen to me. The clothes. Forget it. I don't want to hear it. I pushed him away, feeling disgusted with myself for my momentary soft-heartedness. Julian looked at my indifferent expression anxiously, and finally walked up to Victoria. He looked her up and down a few times and then said in a worried and reproachful tone, "Your foot still isn't healed. Who told you to come?" Victoria's eyes instantly turned red, and she sobbed softly. I didn't mean to, Julian. Please don't quarrel with Sister Isabella because of me, okay? Then she turned to me and said, Sister Isabella, if you're really unhappy, I'll go back to my hometown right now. I'll marry that madman and won't disturb your life with Julian anymore. Victoria, what are you talking about? Julian shouted at her. This is your whole life's happiness. Victoria burst into tears, but I don't want to see you caught between me and Sister Isabella. Upon hearing this, Julian's eyes also turned red. He wiped away her tears with a complicated expression. I watched from the side and let out a cold laugh. Julian looked at me unhappily. Isabella, do you have any heart at all? Do you want to watch Victoria jump into the fire pit with your own eyes? Perhaps realizing that his attitude towards me was too harsh, Julian rubbed his forehead and softened his tone. Isabella, I hope you can understand me. Anyway, I will marry Victoria. She has a sprained foot, so I'll send her home first. After saying that, Julian picked up Victoria and turned to leave. Behind Julian's back, Victoria gave me a provocative smile. I curled my lips and picked up my phone to accept the friend request from my future marriage partner. After graduating from university, I had been intern at my family's real estate company. This time with the city's new urban planning, my father had his eye on an amusement park project, and arranged for me to conduct an on-site inspection together with other employees of the company. Unexpectedly, as soon as we arrived at the entrance of the amusement park, I saw Julian and Victoria, whom I hadn't seen for a few days. I asked Lucas beside me why they were there. Lucas looked at me in surprise and said, "Don't you remember, Isabella? You once instructed that as long as the cooperation proposals submitted by Julian Group weren't excessive, they could be approved. The partner for this project now is Julian Group." Hearing this, I remembered. Julian Group was not as large in scale as Isabella Group, holding the belief that we would be family in the future and should help each other. For some of the more profitable projects of our group, we would always give Julian Group a hand. I sighed and told Lucas, for such future cooperations, just follow the procedures. Prioritize the interests. Lucas nodded, not quite understanding. The project handover was completed quickly, and I was about to drive away. Unexpectedly, Victoria came up to me. Without Julian around, she was no longer the weak and scheming woman. Instead, she held her nose up in the air, looking haughty. "Be sensible and break up with Julian quickly. We're getting married soon. Are you really willing to be the mistress?" I found her appearance ridiculous and said, "The mistress? Are you talking about yourself?" "You," she gritted her teeth, but then, as if remembering something, she showed a triumphant smile on her face. "Don't think I don't know that you're pretending to be calm now, but you're actually dying of sadness inside. You've known Julian for 9 years, yet you can't compare to the 3 years I'd been by his side. Isabella, apart from your background, what aspect of you is better than me?" I didn't know how she came to this conclusion. And I didn't agree with linking a woman's value to a man's love. I thought it must be that the way I was looking at her at that moment was too much like looking at a fool, which made Victoria, who thought she had gotten the better of me, lose her rationality. "What kind of look is that? If you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you. In Julian's heart, let's see who is more important, me or you." After saying that, she suddenly rushed towards me. I didn't have time to dodge, and was pushed by her. We both fell into the ornamental pool behind us. The moment I fell into the water, the memories of drowning when I was a child flooded my mind. I felt my whole body go stiff, and I couldn't even shout out a help. I struggled helplessly in the water until I saw Julian's figure on the shore. Subconsciously, I called out Julian's name. "Julian, save me." Julian jumped into the water just as I had expected, but he swam in the opposite direction of me. The pool water entered my ears, and all sounds became blurred. I could only hear Julian shouting anxiously, "Victoria, Victoria." If I had still had a glimmer of hope for Julian before, now I was completely disillusioned with him. Just when I thought my life was going to end there today, Lucas appeared and saved me. He pulled me out of the water and then hurried to the car to find a clean blanket for me. I lay feebly on the shore, coughing. My chest ached so much that I felt as if I was about to die. After comforting the frightened Victoria, Julian finally remembered that I was also one of the people who had fallen into the water. He rushed towards me in a hurry and reached out his hand to help me up from the ground. "Isabella, Victoria can't swim." I dodged his hand. "No need." I took a few deep breaths and struggled to get up from the ground. Then, without even looking at him, I staggered towards my car. Julian stood there, stunned, not knowing what to do for a moment. Remembering the determination with which I had dodged his hand, he felt an inexplicable sense of panic in his heart. But he just comforted himself that I was angry. Once I cooled down, I would run back to him just like before. But I was destined to disappoint Julian. In the next few days, I didn't contact him at all. I not only moved out of the home we shared, but also blocked all his contact information. A week before the wedding, my marriage partner sent a message saying that the customized diamond ring had arrived, and asked me to pick it up at the offline store. Because of his work, he had been staying abroad. Up to now, I still hadn't met him in person. I replied with a okay on WeChat and drove to the largest shopping mall in the city center. Perhaps it was really a case of running into one's enemies everywhere. I actually ran into Victoria in front of the counter where rings were being selected. Seeing the valuable diamond ring in my hand, a look of vigilance flashed in Victoria's eyes. "Isabella, why are you so shameless? You're not thinking of taking that ring to the wedding to disrupt it, are you?" I didn't bother to pay attention to her and urged the salesperson to pack the ring so that I could take it away. But Victoria obviously wasn't willing to let me go so easily. She grabbed my hand and said frantically, "You can't leave until you make things clear. Let go of me." I shook her off in annoyance. Victoria lost her balance and fell to the ground. A figure behind her rushed out and nervously helped Victoria up. "Victoria, how are you? Are you hurt?" Victoria, who had been confrontational just now, instantly turned into a pitiful and scheming woman. She said with a sob, "Julian, I just wanted to apologize to Sister Isabella. But I didn't expect that she hates me so much." Julian looked at Victoria's appearance and then glanced at me with disappointment, saying, "Isabella, I know you're angry about the change of bride. But you can't treat Victoria like this. You're both women. Why can't you understand her?" Victoria tugged at his sleeve. "Forget it, Julian. Sister Isabella has been wronged. No matter how she treats me, it's understandable." Julian was so touched by Victoria's thoughtfulness that he almost shed tears. He walked towards me with red eyes, took out his phone, and showed me the red exclamation mark on the WeChat chat interface. "Why did you block me? Why didn't you reply to my messages? Do you know how worried I'd been about you these past few days?" "Worried?" I looked at the dark circles under Julian's eyes. Who knew whether he was worried or having a great time? But I didn't bother to pursue it. I took the ring and left straight away. Julian chased after me for a few steps. When Victoria called out Julian, he stopped in his tracks. Back in the car, I sent a message to my marriage partner. "I've got the ring. It's very beautiful, and I like it very much." My marriage partner sent a happy emoticon. Time flew by, and it was the wedding day before I knew it. My marriage partner and I both didn't like things to be complicated. We skipped the unnecessary procedures and directly agreed to meet at the hotel. At the same time, Julian was standing at the entrance of the hotel, waiting for the bride to arrive. He frowned and glanced at his phone screen from time to time. He couldn't understand why I, who used to have tantrums with him, had actually managed to hold back from looking for him this time. The uneasiness in his heart grew stronger, and his hand holding the bouquet of flowers couldn't help but tremble. Suddenly, Julian saw me. He saw me getting out of the wedding car in a wedding dress, and being surrounded by a group of people as I walked towards the hotel. Julian's mind went blank for a moment. He dazedly grabbed the person beside him and asked, "Who was the person who just went in?" The person he grabbed was an employee of Julian Group, who had met me a few times during the project handover before. He scratched his head, not understanding, and said, "It's Isabella from Isabella Group. She's also getting married today. We were even discussing whether we should give a wedding gift together." Julian's head seemed to boom. The bright bouquet of flowers in his hand fell heavily to the ground. When I was sitting in the dressing room touching up my makeup, I heard a commotion outside. Lucas came in with an ugly expression on his face. "What's wrong?" I looked up and asked him. "Isabella, Julian is outside and is insisting on seeing you." I was taken aback. When I agreed to the arranged marriage with my parents, and chose to hold the wedding on the same day and at the same place, I admit that there was a part of me that was angry with Julian, but more importantly, I was afraid that some of my relatives would gossip behind my back. But at this moment, instead of preparing to pick up the bride, what was Julian doing here? Before I could figure it out, I saw Julian pushing the door open and rushing in. A few buttons of his proper suit had popped open, and his hair was a bit messy. It was obvious that he hadn't had an easy time getting in. Julian stood at the door, panting, and scanned the room. When he saw me sitting in front of the dressing mirror, his eyes lit up, and he walked quickly towards me. Isabella. Lucas stood in front of me, glaring at him. Julian, today is our Isabella's big day. What do you mean by coming here to cause trouble? Get out of the way. I want to see Isabella. Julian didn't want to waste time talking to Lucas. He gave Lucas a hard push and shoved him aside. Then, with an excited expression, he grabbed my hand and pulled me up from the stool. Come on, Isabella. Come with me. Let go of me. I frowned and shook off Julian's hand that was gripping my wrist. Julian, today is my wedding day. If you're here to give me your blessings, then I invite you to have a glass of wedding wine. But if you're here to cause trouble, don't blame me for asking the security guards to escort you out. Hearing my such cold words, Julian's eyes turned red. He looked at me in disbelief. Isabella, how can you marry someone else? Didn't we agree that we would be with each other for a lifetime? I showed a look of disdain and laughed at Julian. Now that he was marrying someone else, he actually still expected me to abide by the promises we made when we were in love. Come with me. I'll take you away. After saying that, he tightly grasped my hand again and tried to pull me out of the dressing room. The commotion here soon attracted the attention of the people around. Some security guards surrounded us. But because Julian's eyes were blood red and they didn't know what had happened, everyone dared not act trashly. I tried to break free from Julian's grip on my hand, but his hand was like a pair of iron pliers, firmly clamping my wrist. Julian, let go. What are you going crazy for? But Julian seemed not to have heard me and just pulled me straight out. I tried my best but couldn't break free. In a hurry, I shouted. Julian, look clearly. I'm not Victoria. Sure enough, he stopped. But it wasn't because of what I said. It was because another big hand firmly grabbed me. Where are you taking my wife, Julian? It was Henry, the person in charge of Henry Group. He was also the marriage partner arranged for me by my parents. It was rumored that he took over Henry Group at the age of 20 and in just 10 years, he made Henry Group rank first in Jiang province. My parents had praised him a great deal in front of me. But at that time, I was so obsessed with Julian that I thought no matter how good a person was, he couldn't compare to Julian. Now, gathered together in this situation, looking at the tall figure standing in front of me, I could only say that I was really blinded by love at that time. Henry's appearance made Julian feel a sense of crisis. He frowned and stared at Henry. Who are you? Henry smiled softly, and his laughter was like a deep and melodious cello. Don't you do background checks before trying to disrupt a wedding, Julian? He easily helped me break free from Julian's grasp, put one arm around my waist, and pulled me to his side. Let me introduce myself briefly. I'm the groom today. And also Isabella's husband, Henry. Hearing Henry say this, I immediately understood that he was helping me save face. I deliberately leaned my head affectionately on his chest and felt Henry's body stiffen. Julian, you see, my husband is here. Aren't you going to leave quickly? Julian looked at me with pain in his eyes. Isabella, how can you treat me like this? Why? Why can't you understand me? I was stunned when I heard this. How did I treat him? And how didn't I understand him? It was clearly him who secretly changed the bride. So why did it seem as if he loved me deeply and I had abandoned him? Was I just supposed to watch my boyfriend marry another woman, and then shamelessly rush to be his mistress? For a moment, I really didn't know what Julian was thinking and what I should say. Fortunately, I had Henry by my side. He blocked Julian's gaze on me and put on a sarcastic smile. Julian, no matter what your relationship with Isabella was before, now she is my wife. And Henry took a step forward, bent slightly, and whispered in Julian's ear. "Aren't you the one who gave her up and chose Victoria?" Julian's face turned pale instantly. He looked at me in a panic. "It's not like that, Isabella. You're the only one in my heart. As for me and Victoria, I just..." "Enough, Julian." Henry raised his hand and looked at his wristwatch. "Once you chose the imitation, you automatically gave up the real treasure." He turned around and held out his hand to me. "Let's go, bride. If we delay any longer, we'll miss the auspicious time." "No, Isabella, you can't." In Julian's horrified gaze, I placed my hand in Henry's. Unlike his cold expression, his palm was very warm. When he held my hand, I just felt comfortable. Henry gave me a nice smile. "Let's go." A moment we walked out of the dressing room. Julian rushed up like a madman. Hondori waved his hand, and several security guards appeared and stopped him. He could only watch desperately as Henry and I walked hand in hand, getting farther and farther away, until we disappeared around the corner of the corridor. At the wedding, I met Henry's parents. The fact that the eldest daughter of Isabella Group was in love with the eldest son of Julian Group was no secret in the business circle of Jiangzhou. So before meeting Henry's parents, I was worried that they might have opinions about me because of this. But unexpectedly, they were very satisfied with me. When it was time to serve tea and change my address, Henry's mother even put the family heirloom jade bracelet of the Henry family on my wrist. I knew the significance of the jade bracelet, and I felt guilty because I had agreed to the marriage out of anger at Julian's betrayal. Now that the heavy jade bracelet was on my wrist, I felt ashamed. "No, this is too precious. I just wear it." Henry's mother stopped me from taking off the bracelet. "This is Henry." Henry's mother's words were interrupted by Henry's coughing. "Mom, let's have tea first." Henry's mother showed an understanding smile and said somewhat teasingly, "Okay, let's have tea, have tea." I didn't understand what was going on. I turned to look at Henry and found that somehow, the tips of his ears were actually red. After the wedding ceremony was over, it was already evening when Henry and I returned to our new house. The new house had been bought by Henry long ago and was exactly located in the middle between the two groups, which would make it convenient for me to go to work in the future. I wanted to take off the jade bracelet on my wrist and return it to Henry, but somehow, the jade bracelet that was very easy to take off during the day couldn't be taken off at this moment no matter what. Henry had drunk a little wine at the banquet. He was squinting his eyes and looking at me now. "If you can't take it off, don't take it off. The jade bracelet has spirituality. It has recognized you as the young mistress of our Henry family." Although he said so, I still felt a little embarrassed. "But," Henry interrupted me, "I heard that Julian caused a huge scene at his own wedding today. Not only did he abandon the bride and break the engagement in public, but he also made the old master of the Julian family so angry that he was hospitalized." I instinctively let out an and looked at Henry in confusion. Henry sneered and covered his eyes with his hand and remained silent for a moment. "He still loves you." He suddenly said this. Love? He did love me indeed. He would remember every anniversary between us and send me surprises he prepared with his own hands in every boring afternoon. He would hold me and call me baby and promise me a happy and beautiful future. But he also loved Victoria. Even though he used the excuse of helping and even though he didn't admit it. But he just loved Victoria. I lowered my eyes and vaguely replied, "Maybe." But it didn't matter anymore. I added this sentence in my heart. Outside my line of sight that I couldn't see, Henry put down the hand covering his eyes, stared at my figure, and didn't move his gaze for a long time. The day after the wedding, Henry accompanied me to my parents' house for a meal. He prepared a lot of valuable gifts. When he carried them in, my parents were all smiles. While my father was talking about business matters with Henry, my mother pulled me aside. First she praised Henry from head to toe, and then she covered her mouth and whispered to me. "How was it between you two last night? Did you try your best?" "Mom, why are you asking this?" I blushed with shame. Even though Henry was a nice person and we were a legitimate couple, But after all, it was our first meeting. How could we get into the same bed so quickly? Last night, I was just worried about how to talk to Henry about this. Fortunately, he saw my embarrassment, and without saying a word, he picked up a quilt and went to the guest bedroom. Okay, I won't ask. Other old ladies already have grandchildren. I'm just in a hurry. My mother swayed away and went to the kitchen to prepare the meal with the maid. I sat on the sofa and secretly glanced at Henry out of the corner of my eye. Just then, he also looked over. The moment our eyes met, I jumped up from the sofa. Mom, I'm going out to see Coco. I left the house as if I were running away. Coco was a dog my mother raised. When I found it, it was playing with fallen leaves in the small garden. Its fur little paws stepped on the withered leaves, making a swishing sound. I squatted down and played with it for a while. When I felt it was almost time for the meal, I picked it up and was going to go back home for dinner. But as soon as I turned around, I saw Julian standing behind me. I didn't know when he came. I just saw his eyes light up when he saw me turn around. Isabella. My smile disappeared instantly. I held Coco expressionlessly and planned to bypass him. Isabella, don't go. Julian hastily grabbed me. He was still wearing the same suit as yesterday, and his beard was unkempt. Let go. I looked coldly at the hand he used to grab me, otherwise, I'll call the security guards. Isabella, do we have to be like this? A look of hurt flashed in his eyes, but he didn't let go of his hand. I know I hurt you before, but it wasn't my intention. Isabella, I didn't marry Victoria. I was wrong. Give me another chance. Let's get back together, okay? I struggled to shake him off. Enough, Julian. I don't want to hear any more of your words. I'm already married. Please don't bother me. No, Isabella, I don't care that you're married. I can wait for you. As long as you're willing to come back, I'll keep waiting for you. He even used a pleading tone. He looked at me with eyes full of sorrow. Isabella, I've already prepared the wedding ring. Come back. I can't live without you. Julian took out a ring box from his pocket and opened it in front of me as if it were a precious treasure. I glanced at it inferently. The ring was inlaid with diamonds, looking like a blooming rose. I laughed out loud. Every time you went to see Victoria before, you would bring me back a bouquet of roses. But you know what? I don't like roses at all. Julian's hand holding the ring froze, and his lips twitched, unable to say a word. I sighed and looked him straight in the eyes. Julian, let's end it here. As soon as I got home, my mother took Coco from my hand and asked me to go to the balcony on the second floor to call Henry for dinner. I climbed upstairs and pushed open the balcony door. A puff of cigarette smoke rushed towards me. I couldn't help coughing a few times. Henry heard the sound and turned around. When he saw it was me, he quickly put out the cigarette in his hand. Sorry. I won't smoke again in the future. It's okay. I'm just not used to the smell suddenly. I walked up to him. My mom asked me to call you for dinner. He let out an memph, but didn't move. I asked him, what's wrong? Henry looked down at me. After a moment of silence, he said, I saw Julian just now. I was startled. Then I realized that from here, one could indeed see the whole view of the small garden. Although I hadn't done anything to let Henry down, I somehow felt as if I had been caught in an affair. I am really happy that you're back. Henry interrupted me. I looked up at him in confusion. This is my home. If I don't come back here, where else can I go? Henry didn't say anything and just kept looking at me with a smile. What's with that expression? You're not afraid that I'll run away with Julian, are you? Heaven and earth as my witness, I said this completely as a joke. But I didn't expect that Henry took this sentence to heart and nodded seriously. Of course I'm afraid. The wife I managed to marry can't be stolen away by someone else. When he said this, I felt embarrassed instead. I gave him a light punch, told him not to talk nonsense, and then heard him laugh heartily. I once said that I had an experience of drowning. Because I was too scared, I rarely thought about it. But now, looking at Henry's handsome profile, the scene of drowning suddenly flashed through my mind. I grabbed his arm. Henry, have we met before? Henry stopped laughing. He stared at me with his head lowered for a long time before patting my head affectionately. I thought you would never remember it in your life. It turned out that the person who had jumped into the water without hesitation to save me when I drowned as a child was Henry. I pouted and looked Henry up and down. He felt uncomfortable being stared at by me and dodged my gaze, asking me, "What are you doing?" I raised my hand wearing the jade bracelet. When Mom gave me the bracelet, you pretended to cough and interrupted what she wanted to say. The family heirloom jade bracelet, and the new house that was bought long ago. Henry, have you liked me for a long time? His body clearly froze. Just when I thought I wouldn't get an answer, Henry suddenly took my hand. Yes, I've liked you for a long time. You don't know how happy I was when I learned that you agreed to the arranged marriage. Isabella, would you give me a chance to take care of you for the rest of my life? His eyes were so affectionate that I felt as if I would drown in them. I also held his hand tightly. I can't give you an exact answer right now, but Henry, we can give it a try. Since that day, Henry and I have gotten much closer. I've gotten used to giving Henry a hug every morning before going to work. I've also started to look forward to the kiss that Henry lays on my cheek every night before going to bed. Later, once to celebrate the successful completion of a company project, Henry came home all dizzy from drinking. I helped him into the bedroom. When he fell onto the bed, he suddenly turned over and pinned me down. In the dark, his pair of shiny eyes didn't look like he was drunk at all. He first tentatively kissed the corner of my lips. Seeing that I didn't refuse, he quickly planted a kiss on my lips. He breathed rapidly, and his hot breath hit my face. He asked me, "Isabella, is it okay?" I cupped his face and took the initiative to kiss him. In the days that followed, I finally experienced what it felt like to be loved wholeheartedly. Henry and I freely and immersively enjoyed our own happiness. 2 months later, the old master of the Julian family called me and begged me to go and see Julian and persuade him to accept treatment. That's when I learned. It turned out that since Julian caused a scene at the wedding, Victoria's family knew that she could no longer cling to the Julian family. They forcefully took Victoria back to their hometown and sold her to a madman. Victoria had suffered a lot in the countryside, and she blamed all the unfairness she had endured on me. So she escaped from the countryside and planned to kill me when I wasn't prepared. Julie unlearned of her plan. During the process of stopping her, Julian had a dispute with Victoria and accidentally crashed into an oncoming truck. Victoria died on the spot, and Julian had his legs crushed and was at risk of amputation. Julian thought that this was God's punishment for his indecisiveness and refused the Julian family's offer to send him abroad for treatment. He wanted to make up for the hurt he caused me in this way. Isabella, I know Julian has wronged you, but I'm begging you. Please come and persuade him. I blinked and looked at Henry, who was sitting on the sofa watching TV not far away. Sensing my gaze, he turned his head and winked at me. I clenched the phone in my hand. Grandpa Julian, I'm sorry. I've already moved forward. I don't want to look back on the past either. I hung up the phone and threw myself onto the sofa, putting my arms around Henry's neck. What's wrong? He asked me. Henry, I really love you, so much. I planted a kiss on his lips.